Shine, I'ma shine. I'm not one for wasting time. I'ma make.
Dr T.
I'm Timo.
And
Standing up Timo today.
Standing up. I am also floating. My smart self wore a green shirt.
Yeah.
And for our green
Floating
screen,
head
and now
boys.
I'm also a floating head. So that is my fault. I'm sure we might have someone saying that later as to why I'm a floating head as well.
Sorry, you're my co-host.
It is for my own deficiencies and my own errors that I brought in here. But with that said, welcome back, guys. We're gonna be going through a couple demos today, and we'll reiterate a couple times you guys need. But how about how was your weekend? What'd you do over the weekend? Hit me
Actually,
with it.
it was actually pretty cool. I actually went with the homie Zach. We actually went to go see Shaquille O'Neal DJ.
Oh, DJ Diesel? Hell yeah.
Diesel. So he was actually right here in the San Jose Civic Auditorium.
Was he?
Damn.
Yeah,
dude.
How was he? Was he like dope? Like,
you know what dubstep is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he's
Dubstep
all
house.
dubstep, super high energy, something that you would think Shaq would be like. You know, if you
I
had to
had
play
to
some
guess, like, he's
highlight
wild.
of Shaq dunking like highlights,
Right,
like of
right.
course you play some dubstep. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, no, honestly, it was really cool. He had some younger kids on his show that I never heard of, and then the other people that were really cool. I'm not the biggest fan of dubstep, but I understand it. I love it as like a genre.
Right.
Especially the energy that, you know, people who really love that type of genre, they're just headbangers. So it's pretty cool to see everybody just going wild.
Yeah, I've always wanted to kind of see Shaq. I had a chance to when I was in Arizona. When we were in grad school, I had a friend, Tommy Mai. Shouts to Tommy Mai.
Hey.
We were supposed to go see a DJ Diesel set when he was like first. This was 3 years ago?
Sheesh.
It's like 2.5, 3 years ago when he first started DJing. They're like, hey, let's go see DJ Diesel. And I was like, who the hell is that?
James was telling me that he was actually doing it for his kids during COVID.
Yeah.
That's how it kind of all started. So that's pretty dope. And somebody probably
So
was
a
like,
little
hey.
bit before COVID, he was starting to do his own DJ sets.
Oh, even before.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
before COVID, he was like getting, but no one knew who he was. I mean, they knew who he was, but they didn't know like DJ Diesel was Shaq. Yeah. So he didn't get too many things. But yeah, we had a chance, but he ended up canceling the show. But anyways, like, I'm glad he's dope. That sounds
he
like
was
a
hella
fun thing
dope.
to
But
do.
he had brought the energy. Actually, one of my close friends was both of them. Actually, the other personal trainer that I work with, like, was literally in the front when he jumps in towards the with the crowd during the mosh pits.
Oh, so he did crowd surf.
It's not crowd surfing. He's moshing with everybody.
Oh, he's
so
going
he's out
in?
here just
Alright.
jumping and jumping.
Yeah,
So
ain't nobody hurting him.
Yeah, two of my friends,
He's
like,
good.
they ended up being hella close and being able to
Man,
do that.
That's sick, though.
Yeah, it was a cool little Friday. That was definitely Friday, and then of course, my nightclub is always fun to go to. So shout out.
Oh
Mick.
yeah, you're on the weekends.
Yeah. So, what
Oh,
about you?
Yeah. My lady had a friend's birthday party to go to, so she got that. So I got a little, me, myself, and I weekend. Had a tough. I think we were talking about it last time, but I had a tough month of July with a lot of thinker patients. So I was pretty tired. So it was nice to have like a Saturday kind of to myself, and that was cool. And then Sunday we did a little bit of home project. She got a bunch of baskets and like placemats and stuff, and ended up trying to like put them on the wall of her office. Well, it's her office in the back, and so it's like kind of the background to her like Zoom videos because she worked from home and stuff. And it's so we learned how to get that onto the wall and why we can't just nail everything into the wall, especially through like wood or twine because it would break. So anyways, we had a learning experience where we ended up hanging them up and stuff. So that was that was fun, but a lot of relaxed, a lot of
Leisure.
Yeah, a lot of leisure. Went to Home Depot, got a little planner. I might make my own like
Hey, does
little
it
planner
feel
box
like
and
when you
stuff.
go to Home Depot, you're like a little kid? Sometimes you want to buy stuff that you probably really don't need.
I've never.
You're not like that.
Yes, 100%. I can't go without a list anymore. And I remember feeling like, Dad, what the hell are we doing? Like, stop it. This Home Depot, this place sucks. I don't want to be here. There's just there's a whole entire aisle of like just nails and stuff.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm like, man, I've never been so bored in my life. I go there now to Home Depot and I'm like, hey, these are 1/2-inch nails. Dude, they got 1/4-inch nails? Hey, yo, is this going to be long enough if I want to hammer something into the wall? Is this going to be okay for me to hammer it into the wall? And I feel like my dad. I'm like, man, I can't be let loose in here because I'm going to spend an hour. I'm going to get lost. I'm going to black out. I don't know what's gonna happen. So
No, it's cool.
I gotta list it up when I go to Home Depot now because I can't be trusted. But we got a little planter box, and I'm gonna go to my dad's friend, who's my twin brother's namesake, actually, Chris. And we're gonna try to build like a raised planter box bed, because those things are like $200, $150.
Yeah,
for a
real,
race.
dude.
Jesus, I had no idea.
You're
So,
like, nah, I can make it. I can make it.
yeah. No, I'll pay
That's what's up.
I'll pay $40 for some wood
Yeah,
and then
that's
make
cool.
that myself.
See, that mentality has like been for my whole family though, because like they all work in construction and like to do maintenance work and stuff like that too. So my whole house looks like a Home Depot, just a way more unorganized Home Depot in the garage. We have every tool. My dad doesn't throw it away because he's always like, nah, I might use this next time. I might use it.
Yeah.
I mean, so, you know,
But
me going to Home Depot is crazy.
it's tough. It's now that I'm like on my own more, it's a little even. I mean, I guess that's different. When I was on my own in Arizona, I didn't really go to Home Depot to care because I was like, I'm gonna
But
be
now
out
you
of
want
here
to
in a
get
bit.
like.
Now that I'm
decorative.
here, I'm like, you know what? I need to like learn how to do that. I need like I started looking on like Facebook Marketplace for like just like a little power drill or like power tool or something. I'm like, hey, it's like $10 power tool. Like, let me go get it real quick. I can get a bunch of drill bits for it. We can get ahead. Like, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I want it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I
you
just
like,
want it to
It
have
looks
it.
cool.
I want the option to be able to do that type of thing. And
It
it's
reminds me of like when you go to a toy store and you just like, oh man, I want that big ass
right.
Nerf gun.
That's now.
I just want the big ass Nerf gun. It's like
That's when you know you're washed. I'm sorry, we're washed.
That is true.
We can't. Man, it's tough.
That's funny as hell.
But yeah. Anyways, Home Depots.
Yeah, shout out your local Home Depot.
Oof.
So, do you want to get into the shoulders?
Oh yeah.
Things
So
that we were talking
we've
about?
been going through some different shoulder exercises, and we went through some other ones to go through to basically find what's good, what's bad, why you should or shouldn't do things. Because there's things from a personal training's point where you're like, well, I don't like doing these because of this. And from me, I look at exercise and I'm like, that's dangerous. I don't really want to do that. So there's a little bit different perspective here. So why don't we go over some of them and see, just kind of see what we're going with. So the first one is going to be an upright row. So a bunch of shoulder different exercises. We'll go from worse to better and see how it kind of goes. So we're going to start with kind of the least favorite things from all around. I don't like it. TMOH doesn't like it, but just it's something that's done all the time, so we can see. Why don't you go ahead and show them the upright row we've been thinking about?
Yep.
The floating head.
Floating head, all shoulders, upright row. Why is this bad? Why is this bad for your shoulders?
So the upright row puts you, when you're in that position, it puts you in what's called a kind of an impingement position. And what an impingement, I might have said that before on this and people don't really understand what that means or what that's really insinuating. Impingement is basically moving a joint that's too far in one direction, most likely forward. And there's actually a special test for that that tells you whether it is an impingement or not. And what a special test is kind of like everyone knows the ACL when they go on the ground, they take it and they kind of like buckle your leg and they shake it. That's called a special test. That's determining doing something to determine a diagnosis or potential for diagnosis of something. So they have like tests where you push to the side on like knees and stuff to see your MCL, LCL. The most popular one is the valgus one, where they kind of take it and they kind of shake your leg, they grab your kind of shin and move it up and down to see whether it moves. That's for your ACL. Those are really common special tests, but there are also special tests to test for nerve damage, thoracic outlet syndrome, shoulder impingement, hip impingement, even broken bones. So there's a bunch of these special tests. So whenever I refer to something as a special test, it's basically a diagnostic tool that we can use to see whether you do or don't have the said diagnosis, syndrome, whatever you want to call it. So that puts you in that position. So I'm gonna stand up and get around a little bit. I got it.
Pause it real quick or mute it. Mute the mic. Cool.
So putting yourself into an impingement position is going to be if your shoulder's upright and it's flat, taking it here and shifting it down is going to put you into that impingement position. So having it up, and then just putting his arm here and then twisting it down and then asking whether that hurts or not, that's 100%. I would do this in clinic to say, hey, does this hurt? And if you're like, yes, this hurts, I'll be like, yes, this is an impingement syndrome. So what the impingement does is generally moves the shoulder joint. So you have a little bone here, and then you have a little socket that it's in. Okay, we might need this close. Okay. Yeah, so the socket that this is in, if this is shifted too far forward, okay, then that would cause an impingement because you have a bunch of attachments onto the back of it, and that would lead this to stretch those attachments, okay? And then, okay, perfect. So inside that, here's his bone, and here's his other bone. So an impingement is if this humerus, this humeral head, okay, is up this way. See how that's a little different? Yeah. So an impingement would have that forward, and that's also another test, is to be, here, and if it's forward. That's what we're going to do, okay? So an impingement would shift it forward, and that would lead you into that position of just forward. A lot of people that sit with their kind of legs forward or their arms forward, kind of like a work from home type of person, a lot of people will get that impingement. But putting yourself in that upright row puts you into that position.
Got it. Thanks, Dr. T. I was going to ask you a question. It's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
So my question is, do you feel like shoulders are the most, or do you work on shoulders the most, basically? Is that the most common injury that you've been working on is shoulders?
Fair question. I don't know about the most common, but for our specific demographic in our area, a lot of Silicon Valley, a lot of desk workers, a lot of work from home at this point. Most people are more work from home than usual, but a lot of desk workers, engineers, IT work, people like that. I get a lot more shoulder and back injuries. Okay. Injuries, quote unquote, kind of just pain going on. And more often than not, it's usually an impingement related type thing. Either you're getting an impingement and we're trying to stop it, or you have the impingement and now you're getting this other pain for it. So that type of thing is very common. So putting yourself, if you're doing a workout and you put yourself into that position that's going to promote this impingement, again, the forward translation of the bone inside the joint, and it causes it to sit there, it's not very good, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So that's a weird kind of thing that not everyone kind of thinks about, but your joints can shift. It's not just everyone's perfectly in line. You can get out of alignment. Everyone's got different posture. Everyone's got different spinal connections. Everyone, maybe a little bit of scoliosis, maybe a lot of bit of scoliosis. Maybe you're leaning to the left a little bit. Maybe you're leaning to the right a little bit. So everyone's got all these little funky things, but everyone working at the desk kind of has they're more prone to have the forward kind of lean, and they'll have that impingement. So a lot of people who do work from home, they're like, you know what, I want to try to get in shape. I want to work out. I want to do this. If you're in that position and you go in and do these upright rows and you get put even more into that position, it might cause more harm than good, or cause at least more pain than gain. Yep. To throw that in there. That was unintended, but it is intended now. Cause more pain than gain. We don't want that. More gain than pain.
Yeah, more gain than pain for sure. That's definitely.
But yeah, so that's why that upright row is going to be not very good, putting you into that position of the internal rotation, which is that shoulder. If you put your shoulder out to your side and your hand facing forward, internal rotation is going to go drop it down to the ground, and then external rotation is going to bring it up.
Yeah. So the next ones that we got, the Cuban press. Can't remember that one. What's the
Cuban press is kind of the row.
Oh yeah. So basically, you're doing the same thing. I remember now. Good shit.
Yeah. So the next one's a Cuban press, which not everyone knows, but people might have seen them do. So you're gonna row up, and then you're gonna shift up with your elbows in front of you, and then do kind of an overhead press. Now this one's not as bad, but it's still not great because you're again putting yourself into that position of that impingement position. Even though you're not as down as forward as it, you're still forward and putting yourself into this kind of where you're preventing that action of that arm coming up. So if you're preventing that action, you're using the rotator cuff muscles to kind of pull back and to put yourself down and then push up. The push up isn't that bad, but getting yourself into that position is not very fun and not very good for you.
Yeah, as a trainer, I kind of could see why people could be like, oh no, this one would do even more wonders for you or something like that. Like, but when you're not educated, this is definitely not something that you would want to keep doing in your own routine. I mean, it feels good. It feels like, oh yeah, I could definitely put up a lot of weight. Kind of looks cool too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got some
it
motion
looks.
going.
That's the thing is,
Yeah.
a lot of these things are just ones that look cool, and they could get you in some trouble if you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. But like, you see professional athletes do a lot of things, but should you do them? Nah.
Yeah.
Usually the answer is no.
And then we were kind of talking about it, like lightweight on shoulders would be more recommended, would you say?
Yes, so lightweight on shoulders, especially shoulders where you're extending far away from your body. The closer you keep it, the less torque on your shoulders there are.
Yeah.
Just like if you think of when if anyone's changed a tire, you put the wrench on, and then you go in. You don't push right next to the tool, right? You go to the furthest end of it, and then you push down on it, or you step on it, and that's how you get it going. That's because you're going to put more torque with less energy on the furthest out. So when you do something with your shoulders where your arms are all the way out, they're going to push down more, and they're going to have more torque just on the shoulder with less weight.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to move weight with your deltoids or whatever, that's going to be a little bit more tough. So if you're doing really, really heavier weight, like 20, 25, 30, whatever it is, more than that, keep it tight and keep that kind of motions. You can lift that weight if you want, or especially if that's all you got, do what you got to do. But keep it tight so that you don't get all that torque on that shoulder. And the problem is your rotator cuff muscle, what it'll do is it helps stabilize everything. So you got a bunch of big muscles, your deltoids, your biceps, your triceps, your pecs. You have all these really, your traps, your lats. You have all these really big muscles that control a lot of single plane motions. And then your rotator cuff is about 4 different muscles. Okay, and they all.
Oh, do we have that graphic?
If we do, we can put it up. But
Yeah.
your rotator cuff has 4 different muscles. Okay, the 4 different muscles. There's actually an anagram called SITS, SITS. So your supraspinatus, infraspinatus, your teres minor, and then your subscapularis. Okay, supra, infra, teres, and sub. Okay, that's all you really need to know. But 3 of them do external rotation, which is the upward motion, and 1 of them does that downward rotation. Your subscap is the only one that does downward. Everything else does up.
Everything goes up.
And so your rotator cuff are small little bands, and those are what we call stabilizing muscles. So if you hold your arm out and then you rotate to like open a doorknob or something like that, those are going to be your stabilizing muscles. So if you're holding a big heavy weight out, like a 25-pounder, and then you have to rotate it for whatever reason to keep it stabilized, okay, that's going to be your rotator cuff muscles now dealing with 25 pounds of weight. And they're just not really meant to do that, especially if you don't train them. So if you train your big deltoids, you train your lats, you train your traps, those are overly trained in the sense of this conversation for having, to lift this weight, lift it outside. Your little rotator cuff muscles that you haven't spent that much time on are going to have a really tough time kind of moving that weight for you. So think of it in like a very exaggerated sense of it. Like if I spend a bunch of time bench pressing all this weight and then I go try to curl it, I'm not going to be able to because I haven't trained my biceps to handle that weight. You know what I'm saying? But can I push it? Can I use it? Yeah. So I have a shoulder performing an action, but I can't bench press it. So or I can't curl it. So that's kind of what's happening in a grand scheme of things is my shoulder muscles can do these single plane motions, but as soon as I have to take it off course a little bit, that's my rotator cuff muscles. That's why you see people who do the lateral butterfly lifts or the things like that where they come up and flip it, and they're doing this flip with 35 pounds, 25 pounds. Yeah, you can overhead press it for your weight, and that's all good. But doing this motion to this with that much weight is a huge strain, and then you just kind of force your body through the motion, and then it damages it, and you get fraying, you get all that stuff going on.
Yeah, because even like we were talking about, because I was always taught as a youngster, when you do lateral raises, you come straight shoulder side, just straight out.
Yeah.
And then you're telling me no, that's wrong because of just. Explain what you were saying before.
The scapular plane.
Oh, the scapular plane.
So your body has a natural kind of plane of motion that it wants to be in.
Yeah.
where your scapula lays across your rib cage, and your rib cage is kind of an oval on a side, and so when it lays down, it doesn't lay down straight flat to the side. It doesn't. It's not. You're not a box. You're not a square. So your scapula actually lays at an angle. So when you lift it and rotate it, your scapula and your shoulder blade rotates up. And so when that happens, it rotates along kind of the trace line, if you will, of your ribs. So if it's at an angle, your scapula is going to rotate up with your ribs. Therefore, your ribs are a circle and they're curved on the side, so they're going to come in at an angle. So if you lift your shoulder blades all the way out to the side, they're actually going to be fighting themselves and trying to spread themselves apart from your rib cage. And you just don't have the muscles that are like appropriate to handle that. So you should keep everything not straight to the side, but at least a little bit. We call the scapular plane of motion is about 60 degrees.
60 degrees?
Yeah, so about 60 degrees. So there's actually a technical term called scaption that is specifically for that scapular plane of motion that's about 60 degrees out. So you have abduction, which is to the side. That's so less as strong.
The way to correct the side raises would be more coming up in that 60-degree area.
Yes. So that would be a safer bet because your scapula could help you go through that, and that's more of a natural plane of motion for your rotator cuff.
And then also we were talking about pinky up, or is it more of like kind of keeping it towards more of the thumb side?
So demonstrate what that means.
So if I raise my arm and I lift and I go pinky up like I'm pouring a pitcher of water, for me it feels like, I'm working more of my back shoulder. For whatever reason. And then in other videos that we've seen, that is you come up, but you come more thumb side, so thumb is up, and you're coming more at that like 60. Oh, you're still coming at that 60 degree angle.
So what that's doing is when you put your thumbs down, you're rotating your shoulder to make it down. So you're using more of the rear delts because of it. But as you're doing that, you're still putting more strain on a rotator cuff, because to stop your thumb from going down even more, you have to fight it, and you have to do an external rotation by doing this. So when you have to do that, that'll keep your rotator cuff up. That'll keep your thumb from just dropping completely down like a thumbs down. So in essence, if you're pouring a little bit, you have to use more of your rotator cuff to keep it down. That's like if you you're taking a squat, or you're standing up straight, then you're squatting down. The further down you go, you have to hold it at that height. Again, this is an exaggeration, but to hold it at that height and to keep that kind of thumb, I might keep it in here. I don't know if I can see. Doesn't matter. But to keep that thumb kind of up at that angle, you're going to have to fight it more. So if you keep it up already, you don't have to fight to have this rotation aspect going in your hand.
So just keep it at the thumb?
Yeah. So I would keep thumbs out. And like I said earlier, you got 3 rotator cuff muscles doing that external rotation. Might as well keep it up and without having to fight it the whole time.
Yeah, you're just going against what your anatomy.
Yeah, so you're putting your rotator cuff in a more of a safe position by not having to dump it down because you're not using it to fight. Now, if you're using like 5 to 10 pounds, that'd be more of an appropriate, I would say 5 pounds if you're not used to that, more of an appropriate kind of lateral raise with the pinky down. That would give you a little bit of rotator cuff. You'd get a little bit burned kind of at the top of your trap as opposed to more of your deltoid. But that's going to be more of your burner where you're going to get it.
Yeah. So another question I was having is about the behind the back press.
Okay, behind the head.
So behind the head. Yeah, behind the head. So it's necessarily having a barbell going behind your head, and you're in a press motion.
Yeah.
So back here.
So that puts you in a weird position of what's called an apprehensive position. Actually, that's another special test. So literally putting someone in that, elbow up, hands up to the side, almost like you're giving a high five.
Yeah.
So putting yourself in that position and asking whether it feels uncomfortable or not is a special test for shoulder instability.
Got it. So the first one,
Hawkins-Kennedy.
So
that's for impingement.
Impingement.
And then all the way up, that's going to be a special test for, it's called anterior instability, which again is if that shoulder feels like it's going to slip out is what it feels like. Because
I was about to say, I was like it's going to dislocate in a sense, right?
So that is actually the most prone position to dislocate your elbow or your shoulder.
So when you're doing this and you're like, oh yeah, I'm about to lift some weights, and you're
Exactly.
like, dislocate my shoulder.
And so it doesn't feel very good. So,
Yeah.
or if you have what's called a torn labrum, which is what gets torn when you dislocate something, or you subluxate something, which is like a partial dislocation when they go in and out, and it kind of comes back, or you feel like, oh, clunky. That's the position that you get put in. That's what a dislocated shoulder looks like. So if you see, like in football, it happens a lot more often, but you see them tackle someone and their kind of arms are up and out, and they hit that and they kind of hit the ground and it like shuffles real quick.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so that if someone gets up and is kind of holding their shoulder after they land on the ground like that, I would immediately be like, oh no, did they sublux or did they dislocate their shoulder? So same thing, if you get hit or you're catching a ball like this, or a quarterback gets hit like this and they shift it. Baker Mayfield, I think, had this. I could be wrong, but I think Baker Mayfield had this injury where he came in, got hit while he was throwing by someone, and his shoulder subluxed and shifted forward. He ended up having kind of a mini shoulder dislocation where it comes in and out. Fernando Tatis had this, and he got injured on a slide, I believe. I want to say it was in a slide to some kind of base sliding head first, and he came in and grabbed it, and it hit it, and it buckled him forward as he hit the ground, and that shifted and subluxed it. So that's just that's the worst position to be in to have your shoulder dislocated. So that just feels very uncomfortable because it's the least stable position.
So you would say the shoulder and rotator cuff, the whole area, is probably the easiest to injure, would you say, for people who like go to the gym and like work out?
Yes. So for new people who are starting to lift and have gotten progress, that is the biggest thing that I see with people getting injured with, is them getting really, really strong, and they've been working really good for like 4 or 5 months, and they're just like on it. They've bulked, they've gained however many pounds, they're lifting so much more, and they bam, all of a sudden their shoulder hurts. Usually they have a rotator cuff strain. Very, very, very common, and I saw more when I was on kind of my rotations just because the demographic we're in. I don't see as many people getting that where I'm at, but when I was in Scottsdale and we worked at more of a sports ortho clinic that had a lot more patient influx, it was a lot more of healthy people that had shoulder pain after they were weightlifting. They're like, well, I can still push, 200 pounds on the bench press and this and that. But that's the different, because you're not using your rotator cuff on the bench press. So they're pissed off because they're like, well, I can bench, I can do my sets at 200, but I can't lift, 5-pound lateral raises because my shoulder hurts.
Yeah.
And so I got to sit there and explain to them and blah, blah. And that's usually the tougher thing for them to realize, like, yeah, you can still bench and it's not really going to be that bad of a deal, but you probably shouldn't to save it. But that's a big thing. And then we got some questions.
Oh, do we? Sick.
Let's see what we got. Let me go up, see if we missed any. First off, shouts to Rice and I. Way to go being in here. I'll win our fantasy league again this year. Don't worry about it. Ace Hardware. I need to go there instead. I can't be trusted any of those places.
Okay.
Timo's arms are looking healthy.
Yeah, thanks.
Good looking out.
Appreciate that.
The water pouring.
Yeah. Let's see.
And then bread with butters. Where does blood come from? Blood comes from your digestive system, and that's where your water goes first. Blood is where urine comes from. I think that's the main question we need to go from. Urine doesn't come from your digestive system. It comes from your blood because it gets filtered through the kidneys and stuff. Blood comes from your body, in case you're wondering, and everything that you eat and drink, it gets created from your... I'm going to feel like an idiot. Your liver deals with blood creation and your red blood cell creation. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I'm fairly certain it's the liver. I haven't taken physiology in a little bit, but
I know
yes,
how it flows.
your liver, I believe, creates red blood cells and sends that into your body, which is most of what your blood is. Then we have another one. How do you know if you have a rotator cuff sprain, and how would it feel? So, sprain and strain. Sprain is ligaments, strain is muscle. I'll tell you that right now. Your rotator cuff is a collection of muscles, so it would be a strain with a T. But beside the point, you would know there's another special test that is specific for a rotator cuff. There's a couple like muscle tests where you have your arms at your side, and then you push it side to side. We can do that now. Hold on. Let me go do. I'll do the special test. I got you, Butters. So one of the rotator cuffs special test would be here, and so you're gonna keep your arm here and don't let me move it. So can we hear me? We good? All right. So you're gonna have your arm here, okay? Keep it right here. So I'm gonna try to pull it out. Don't let me pull it. So if you pull it out like this, that's gonna be a test for your internal rotators. So it's your subscap. Okay. This is the harder one. So you can take it here. I'm gonna say, don't let me push in. So I'm gonna push in. And if I can push that in and it hurts, that would be more of a special test. Not directly indicative of a positive thing, but it could say, hey, it's weak or there's a strain in it. Now there's another one where you do it's called the lag test. And you come up and you have them pull as far back as they can. And I put this into the far back as I can. And I say, all right, hold it here. So I'm going to let go. And you try to keep it there. So if that comes forward at all, then that's going to mean that your whatever external rotator that you have isn't being used enough. And so that could be strained. The last one we're going to have is, or two more. I'll give you two more. One is you have it here, and then you have them literally push into your stomach. Push into the stomach. And if that hurts, okay, that's called a subscapularis test. So that's a straight push for your internal rotator. The last one is called the lift-off test. So you have their hand behind their back, and you just tell them to lift their hand off of it. So if you can do that where you take your hand here and you push off of it, okay, so it's flat on your back. Sorry about my green shirt because I'm an idiot. But if you can put it flat on your back and then lift it off, then that means you're good. That's a lift-off test. So there's a bunch of those special tests. And then the last one that's not a muscular test is called the drop arm test. So you put your arm up and you have them just lift it up to the side. And so from about 60 degrees to 120 degrees, you'll get pain. And then past that, you're not. So if you lift it up to the side, from about here, you'll have pain. And then you lift it up to right about here, you'll have pain. And then anything past that shouldn't feel that bad. So if there's just this arc, painful arc is what it's called. So if you have this arc that's painful between here to here, kind of in that 60 to 20 or 60 to 120 degrees, that would also be a positive rotator cuff test. So going back. So I just gave you a lot of options for those tests, so you do muscle tests specifically for those items. I need to be in the thingy again. I think. Back down. But we give you a bunch of options for. There we go. For those things. So if you kind of lift your arm straight up to the side and from about halfway up, it just from about shoulder height and a little bit down, a little bit up, it hurts. That's usually a positive sign for rotator cuff strain. But yeah. Did we have anything going on while I was doing that extensive things? All right, we're good. All right. So do we have any more?
So let's get into like some of the better ones that people probably should be doing, or is there another kind of thing that you would recommend that people start doing? Because I was actually thinking about it because in our other, I think we did tricep video and bench dips. So now that we're kind of like moving the shoulder and doing all this thing, and we had the bench dips where I had most of my clients, I still probably do have most of my clients, doing bench dips downward. Is that okay for the shoulders, or still kind of, now that I kind of think about it, it feels like it might be just a super awkward position, regardless of like, even though I could feel it more in my triceps.
Yeah, it would, again, put you kind of in that shoulder forward position, which isn't the greatest. That's where it takes, again, a bit of, you got to know what you're doing and don't do too much. Don't put too much stress onto that shoulder and don't put too much stress into what you're doing. But as long as you're kind of aware of it, again, that's a more...
Good thing I'm watching them.
Yeah, more, that's more a advanced exercise. Anything with body weight is going to be a little bit more advanced, just knowing your limits and knowing when to stop it. I would actually recommend free weights for more beginners and just grow from there. Start everything low, and if you ain't sore, bump it up a little bit.
I found out that was what works for people to kind of understand a little bit more of like the push motion for me is I kind of have them stand up and do it off a wall first. And understanding like different hand positions and just understanding where they push off, like what feels good, what doesn't feel good, like how it's supposed to be. And I think that's definitely helped me. Like even like if you have your hands in the plank motion on the wall and like even pushing out and just feeling like, oh, this is my tricep area and stuff like that. So I have kind of taken the idea of initially doing the bench dips, but now it's kind of like I forgot I used to do that like as a stretch and just kind of warming up my push motion and stuff like that. So and it's a little bit easier. You're not doing too much, I don't personally think, but what do you think? Is that a good idea to kind of have, just kind of letting them understand?
Everyone needs to kind of understand weight and their own, as like much of a taboo position as that might be. That's like kind of a tricky bridge that I have to walk through too, and I'm sure you probably have to walk through it more than I do about talking about people's weights and like getting it down or what they wanted to.
Yeah, and because I've learned too is like I can't have everybody do body weight stuff because some people can't control their body weight.
Sometimes your body weight is too much. Yeah,
it's too much. It's literally that's why we're in, because your body weight is not where it's supposed to be. So I've learned that I have to. I definitely do more free weights. If there's anything that I do where it's body weight for my bigger clients, we're just definitely doing like air squats and stuff like that, or kind of doing more jumping or side to side stuff.
I feel like it's just, especially beginning, until you can handle your own body weight, it's easier to just grow in free weights than it is to like, well, I'm just going to add a little bit more of my body weight being at more of an angle. It's a little tough to control if you don't really know how much that is. And it's a tough thing in general, like for anybody. How many people can pick up five pounds off the ground and be like, yeah, this is definitely 5 pounds. Like you don't know. No. Your like perception of weight is not really as great as you think it is.
Yeah. It's crazy too, because even when I have all my clients, everybody's in a different, starting point. Yeah. So I can't start each person with the same program. Like I could in a sense, but this person is probably not as coordinated as this person. So I have to do something to where I don't make them feel awkward in a sense too, because they're still learning how to be in the gym and like knowing the right way to move their body, and like they don't want to be. I've learned that just kind of being more self-aware of their self-conscious and where they're at, at that moment. I think that goes a long ways for what I have to do for them, so they could feel comfortable in their own skin in a public pace. I think that's what I've been learned, that like I said, I could have all the programs, but if I'm gonna make you try to do something where you're awkward and uncomfortable, you're not gonna like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's definitely tricky. It's definitely something I've had to learn to kind of get around a little bit.
I think, you have to do more than me, but I've literally had to sit there and be like, hey, you got to lose weight. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have this knee replacement, and then you're really screwed. Like, good luck.
Yeah. For real.
So moral of the story is, like, free weights is kind of the way to go, even like leg press, something you can control the weight on, because you don't know what that weight is at all.
Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm. Even your own body weight. You think you got it, but sometimes it takes you.
To be able to. Slick Fargo in the chat. We made it. Sorry to interrupt.
Slick Fargo.
In the chat. But yeah, so even controlling your own body weight is tough. Like you and I are around weights all the time. I could pick up a weight and be like, I don't really know how much. Like I might be able to get within 10 pounds of something, but like it's going to be tough for me to just be like, yeah, that's 25 pounds. That's 35 pounds. Like I definitely know how much that. I just don't know. You never know. So anyways, yeah.
Cool. And so Arnold presses are very popular. Talking about Arnold presses. Like I said earlier, I thought he went in and then went up, but he just kind of goes from a inverted
palms towards you and then going up to the thing.
Ooh.
So that's I'm not mad at that. It's so it keeps your elbows in front of you. It doesn't let your elbows go out to the side. It doesn't have you put that, it doesn't put you in that apprehensive position. It keeps everything
elbows,
in front of you.
Would you say, do you go wide with your elbows? Or do you kind of keep it nice and tucked in?
I try to stay around, either tucked in to about 45 degrees.
As much as you can?
Yeah, about 60 is about the most, so about kind of out that much is the most that I would go out, just for like safety. I don't want to be out there. I've dislocated my left shoulder once and subluxed it once. And so my left shoulder is bad. So I have that positive apprehension. Me being in this position with my arm up like this is just like extremely uncomfortable for me, and I don't like it.
And this also brings me to the question, like, for me personally, I don't know, like, for some of my clients, they're pretty flexible in areas, and then some are not flexible. Should I be trying to really force their bodies into looking as straight as I was taught in my textbooks, or should I do a gradual kind of, hey, your toes are a little bit out, let's try it at this one, let's kind of slowly get to the front, or should I kind of, no, we're going toe straight, or like I see this muscle imbalance, like, and also now I'm thinking about it, like, does it matter how flexible the person is, depending on how they're doing the exercise?
So that's going to be, as far as my perspective is, it's going to be, what is the goal of the exercise, and can you complete at least a base part of the exercise? Like, can you create the minimal amount of weight to it properly? And if you can't even do that, what muscles are deficient in that? And then let's train those muscles. And then we'll go to here eventually. Gotcha. So if they can't keep their toes straight and do a full squat down, I would say, why can't they? What is the muscle stopping them from doing it? What is the deficiency there? And let's get down to basics, if you will, and just go straight into, hey, let's train this. Let's train this to get it better so that we can do this appropriate squat.
Got it. Cool. Makes sense. The scoop press is what we have next.
That's the one where you're going to be sitting down and then you pull up and then straight up. So it's almost like the Arnold press, but it's a little bit different. Show us what we got.
Bump, bump, bump. Pulling back, up, and going forward. Or is it up? Yeah.
Straight up, like a shoulder press. So this one, again, I like it, but you need to understand why you're doing it and what you're doing.
You can start with the starting position, I guess.
Yeah, so this position in itself puts you back. So this puts you in kind of a not vulnerable position, but again, it's that forward shoulder translation. It's that kind of almost putting you in an impingement position. So again, as long as you're aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you're not kind of squeezing forward and kind of forcing yourself to go up like that,
I see what you're
then
saying.
you're good. But if you're kind of, relying on your shoulder to go back to hold it, and you're doing this like shoulder push down in order to make it come up, then it's going to be trouble. But other than that, using that, because your bicep is actually a shoulder raiser. Your bicep is a 2-joint muscle. So it goes through mostly from your elbow, mostly an elbow flexor, but your bicep also connects up to your collarbone and is a kind of a front raiser.
Gotcha.
So the only trouble is to get back there to bring it forward is that you don't put it in too much of a stretched position to use it when it's at its fullest stretch, because that could sometimes give you a little bit of front shoulder pain or what's called tendonitis, like an overuse of that tendon because it's already on length and stretched out. So it's not a mechanical advantage.
So now this also brings another question of, then what do you feel about bent over rows? Because you're kind of going from that motion back and you're kind of latching onto here.
So my general rule for therapy, at least, I try not to have the shoulders, the elbows go past your rib cage. So up to your midline, kind of at your rib cage. So anything behind that is kind of puts me in an impingement position as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I could even tell, like, now that I understand that
the
motion,
pulling of it.
And I feel like now my shoulders are in a weird spot.
And so that's a little bit difference between, in my profession, I'm looking at what's dangerous. I don't want you to do anything dangerous. I don't want you to get yourself in a position that's, not as safe. And I don't want you to put yourself in a position that's going to let you increase this quote unquote impingement that we may have or we may have forming. For you, if you have someone who's completely healthy, doesn't have impingement type, problems, don't have this like front shoulder pain, they can do that safely because they're not going to put themselves in that position of pain.
So even for the back, like a back row, if I don't go past my rib cage still, am I still hitting back? It's like, is there enough activation going on? Or if I'm like truly trying to hit the back, should I be going all the way back?
Your back should be more emphasis on your shoulder blades getting pulled back anyways, because your elbows being pulled further back is going to do minimal lat use than your shoulder blades being pulled back.
So then
You know what I'm saying?
basically, yeah. So basically, if you just go to rib cage, you're still working your back. You don't necessarily need to go back.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
getting it
cool.
enough, and then your scapula and your shoulder blade should
And
be
it's
the
safer.
ones doing most of that work.
Yeah, so it's still doing enough what it needs to do, and then, yeah, it's safer.
Right, but that's again in my line.
Yep,
I'm going to be looking a little bit safe. If you have a patient, if you have a client or anything that's going in and you want them to work that, if they don't have that front shoulder pain, then like go ahead and do that.
Oh,
but if they're starting to develop that front shoulder pain, then maybe like, all right, if
Stay
you have
away
pain in
from
there,
that. Stay away.
yeah,
from that.
stay away from putting your elbows past your rib cage. How about doing, that type of thing? Stay away from it. But if you got nobody with pain, that's where we have a little bit of difference in our of what we're doing and how we're training people. You may do things that are okay, and I wouldn't do,
Yeah,
but
for
that's
somebody
just
who's
because
healthy and,
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
I mean, most people that are coming to see you, actually, that kind of brings up the question that Slick Fargo was kind of asking. What's the difference between, what do you say?
oh, physical therapy and occupational therapy.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so just for you, Slick Fargo, there is a kind of at times a battle between practices. Occupational therapy is more functional. I don't want you to be able to do something. Okay, I want you to be able to walk from. I want you to be able to get up from this couch. I want you to be able to walk over, and I want you to be able to brush your teeth. I don't care how you do it, to a point, to an extent, but I want you to be able to get up and go over there and do it. And we're gonna do everything in our power to work within your limits to make you do these things. And physical therapy is more, I can get you up and walking over there, but you're going to get up a specific way that's more healthy and proper. More quality over actually being able to functionally do it. So instead of getting up and going over there and practicing that over and over and over until you get better at it, which is what occupational therapy would do. So I want you to get up. Let's keep getting up. Let's keep walking over here. Let's do that 100 times. However you can do it, let's do it. For me, I'm going to see you get up and be like, no, I want you to sit up appropriately. I want you to be able to stand up without having to reach for a bunch of things. I want you to be able to stand up and strengthen your legs so that you could walk appropriately without using a walker if you don't have to. And I want you to be able to lift your arm up so that you can brush your teeth appropriately, but we're going to strengthen your arm doing it. Occupational therapy is more, we're just going to do it. So we're going to do it and you're going to get better at it because we're just going to keep doing it more. What's right or wrong? Take it for what it is. Usually occupational therapy is more for hand things, getting you to compromise and be able to do those things. Physical therapy is usually more for lower extremity and walking to increase your quality of gait so you don't have problems along the chain or for your back and things. But occupational therapy is more used for, I have this deficiency, but I need to be able to do my work occupational. And I need to be able to pick something up and I need to be able to put it over here. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to figure out, but I have this deformity or I have a surgery that doesn't allow me to do this or I have this nerve damage or I have this shoulder thing that I can't lift it all the way or whatever it is, but I'm going to be able to do it within reason. Therapy is going to be like, well, your shoulder is weak from doing this. Let's do, this lift or let's strengthen your rotator cuff so we can lift your arm up to go do this or let's strengthen this to do this instead of just doing it consistently. That's the main difference. Sorry if that was long-winded, but it's basically doing something over and over within a compromised way is more OT, but I want you to be able to do it. PT is more, let's increase how we're doing this and get you to where you can do it better than you have been. And so that's kind of the two differences. But yeah, there you go, Slick Fargo. Hope that was adequate. And if that didn't clear it up, I'm sorry, but a little bit more specific and I got you. But those are the huge differences between them. Quality and just functionality.
He also had another one in there.
Oh,
Hit me with it. Where is it?
I got you.
I saw something about replacing.
pillows.
How about doing 100 deltoid flies every night without weights? That was like
Ooh.
Fargo.
I mean, it would make you more cut,
It's a good finisher.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's not bad. Again, because without the weight, you're just using you are using your rotator cuff a little bit in it, but it is going to be more deltoid as you're using it.
I was about to say, so for most of my clients, since I'm kind of we're keep on thinking about this, I should have most of my clients be doing more pulling motions rather than the pushing motions because everything is kind of going forward and they already kind of have a lot of strain going on their front shoulders.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, me and producer at Sarah. But when you're born in a fetal position.
Yep.
Okay. And then you go to crawl, so you move out a little bit, and then you kind of stand, and then you kind of coast and you walk around, and then you start to walk, and then you run. So that's your appropriately upright. And then once you get older, you kind of crouch down forward again, down into these, the over, like you see geriatric people or older people in like walkers.
Yeah.
So you go from in a fetal position to upright to back down forward. So a lot of training for older people or for, people who are getting up there in age is going to be kind of this pulling motion to get your back stronger because your posterior chain is what it's called.
Yep.
Is usually weaker than your anterior chain because it's usually really tight. And so tightness, backwards, not tightness, but like looseness leads to weakness. So if you're like very forward, outward all the time, it's not used to being contracted. So having to use it and contract it is going to make it weak. Because you aren't able to all the time because it's always stretched out. It's always long. It's always lengthened. So usually they have weaker backs, things like that. So that's more why and why you would do things. But
Yeah, because I always never really tell most people who are starting out, go hit the bench press.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's
not.
not.
And everybody's the first thing that everybody does is hit the bench press. Even for like women who are just going in, they kind of just see like maybe I should be hitting bench press.
Like pun intended, but it's like the benchmark, like workout is good to go do the bench press and do things like that.
Press.
So
Do the bench press.
it's
But for most people, we should be doing pull-ups.
pulling back
Hit
and
some
core.
rows.
Back core should be the two main. Back core and legs basically.
Back core and legs.
But
would you say
I saw
also? Would you say more like hamstrings?
posterior
everything on the
chain.
bed, posterior.
Yeah, stretch those out usually.
Oh, and
tight.
you said most people's calves are super tight.
Yeah, I see Sarah, little brother was on occupational therapy, so you can find motor skills. Generally more is working with your like deficiencies and what you got to do better at. So that's a thing.
Yeah, I think we're done then. You did?
Yeah.
You muted? Sorry.
And Dr. T, I think there's a couple questions in there. First one, Bread with Butters was talking about, yeah? What? Cut what? Oh, is it good? All right.
Talking while your neck
moving
hurts
over.
when you wake up?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Depending on why or what's going on.
Oh, it feels so good to sit down.
Watch out for that. A lot of time that could be not enough pillows. That is true. Not enough pillows, or also like just sleeping at a specific angle. Not having your neck straight back is going to be an issue with you in general. And having to do, lift off to a side or have your neck down or come on back, or if you're leaning back too far, or if you have to lean forward, it puts you being in any stretch too far, especially into like an extension or a side bend, could lead to what's called your zygoapophyseal joints, called your Z joints or your facet joints, which is the sideways parts of your vertebra where your nerves come out of. And so that's the one if you like hear people crack their neck or you see the chiropractors that turn you and go crack, and then they like turn you again and they go crack. Those are the joints they're usually manipulating or adjusting. Those can get stuck really easily because you have a bunch of different little mini muscles up and down there that will cause you to guard and protect and get really tight on those. If they're in the same position for too long, they'll actually get kind of locked up and stuck. So just avoid having your neck into a special position. Don't have it way too far out. Try to avoid that if you can. If you wake up finding yourself like that, try to fix that first before doing any other options for it.
And then it looks like we have a fantasy football injury question.
Oh, do we?
And I'm hoping we get more of those. Just a reminder, our own fantasy football league show is going to be coming up soon. Be on the lookout for that. But go ahead and take a look at that.
So first thing, Travis Etienne from C. Damage, shouts to the twin. What do you think of running back Jacksonville Jaguars? What's his fantasy football season? High re-injury risk for Liz Frank injuries or surgeries. And then opinion on, pull up the Michael Thomas and Chris Godwin. It's not, the Michael Thomas I kind of know.
I know.
I don't. The Chris Godwin, I guess, ACL, right? I think he is. Pull that up. But as for Chris Godwin, but as for the Travis Etienne, Liz Frank is a very usually serious surgery for feet. It's a very important joint. Think of like an arch, and then that middle cobblestone. That's basically what the Liz Frank is for your foot. So the arch of your foot, it's that middle, really, really integral part of it. The problem with that is when it gets hurt, you need to shut down everything. Those are the ones usually. I think Yao Ming had a bunch of them. So feet injuries in itself are tough, but a Liz Frank, as long as you have surgery to fix it and you get the time off and you get adequate healing time and you're kind of on schedule and stuff, I'm not worried about a re-injury to that specific thing. Now, could there be complications to other things? Could you have, you're maybe a little bit weaker ankle on that side, or the other leg isn't ready to go, certain things like that. But as for specifically Liz Frank, I would not be worried about it, the Liz Frank specifically getting re-injured again. Even though he is kind of a scat back, he catches a lot out the backfield, he moves a lot that way. I wouldn't be worried about that just because the surgical fix, the healing time behind it, Liz Frank, those ligaments and your feet just have good vascularization anyways. There's a lot of good blood flow, as opposed to the scaphoid that we talked about last week. Doesn't have good blood flow. That's the main thing in getting that thing healthy. So I'm not worried about Etienne. I would draft him. If he slides in your draft, take him. Especially if you're in a PPR, he'll get you some stuff. I'm not worried about that at all. Am I worried about the Jaguars? I don't know. That could be a whole thing in itself. But just the Liz Frank specifically, I'm not super worried about him re-injuring that. I think he's going to be fine.
Michael Thomas and Chris Godwin, did they get the same thing?
Michael Thomas had an ankle
I seen
thing?
Godwin's.
Okay, Godwin's.
So it was torn ACL week 15.
ACL.
Ooh.
Okay.
I mean, they're not going to need him for later anyway.
My thing with Chris Godwin is he might be less explosive, but as far as him re-injuring it, I wouldn't be too worried. He might get a little late start. I would be worried with Julio Jones coming back or coming to them. I wouldn't be super excited about having him. If he drops, yeah, but I'm not taking him earlier than he's kind of slotted, Yeah. He should be good to go. Anything that I've seen has been okay from like camp or how he's any videos or stuff. I think he should be good to go. I think he should be on pace to. He might not start season or week 1 if he's week 15, because that'll be probably 8 to 9 months before return. Jeez. He might miss the first couple weeks. So, I mean, I think he's going to be fine once he comes back, though. Only thing is just there's a lot of mouths to feed there now. Leonard Fournette coming in, and but at least Ronald Jones is gone. They should be able to have a little bit more. Yeah, as far as the Chris Godwin thing, I wouldn't be too worried. It's just going to be the time is when he gets cleared to go. But when he gets cleared to go, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be good to go when he's good to go.
And what about Michael Thomas?
Michael Thomas thing scares me.
He was out for a damn year and a half.
Yes. So the Michael Thomas thing scares me because I have seen videos of him running, and he is clearly favoring that ankle. You can see when he doesn't really do speed cuts. He floats around him, and you can see when he plants the foot, he takes a couple extra steps on what should be speed cuts, which is more of an immediate turn. You shouldn't take 3 to 4 steps to go into your speed cut. Yeah, so it's a 1-2 kind of jut out, and you kind of fade into it once you get out of it. But he's taken 2 or 3 steps to get out of it. He doesn't like turning in on it or outside of it. I'm more concerned about Michael Thomas and him just kind of I would be more concerned about Michael Thomas re-injuring than any of the others. I would maybe not fully fade him, but I'm definitely have my reservations about it and have kind of red flags on what I'm going to do with him. I don't take him if I have to rely on him every week. If he's my first bench player, sick, or if he's is he going to play? He's gonna play. He's supposed to be cleared. He's
Start
supposed
the
to play. That's what the word is. I think he should be able to, judging by what he had. Medically, he should be okay. It's just, is this thing healing? Is it getting the proper treatment? There was a lot of skepticism whether they were trying to keep him out or whether he was forcing himself out last year or what was going on. I don't know. But the thing is, if you don't
play
get...
with Jameis.
Yeah. So the thing is with surgery, if you don't fix it early, your healing time could be delayed heavily. So if you don't fix it early or you try to stall something, it's not going to turn out very good. That's why you see people with these delays, all of a sudden, they're not just delayed, a couple weeks. They're usually delayed a couple months. So things with him, you saw with James Wiseman. When James Wiseman had the injury and he had a bunch of little small things, it was never, it's just a couple more weeks. It's always, 3 more months. Let's see how it does. 3 more months. Let's see it again. Another couple months to see where it goes. So that's what I'm worried about I'm worried about James Wiseman and himself. But with that type of injury, especially to an ankle, and a joint that you could have recurring injuries of, that's commonplace to have recurring ankle sprains, recurring, injuries in there. And for it not to have been a clean surgery off the jump, I don't really like that. I would kind of stay away from him. Could he be great? Yeah. Do they got anyone else over there? Not particularly. So if he's playing, he's going to do work. Yeah. How many games is he going to play? I'm kind of setting over under at like 11.5. I don't know if he sees more than 12 games, or if he has to sit out because he has ankle soreness after it or whatever it is. But I'm not super
away
hot
from
on
people who have injuries. Like I go in, I literally
that is a good idea.
I just literally go, you know what? I'm gonna straight in. Who's healthy right now? Because I can't think about it. Because everybody gets hurt. Everybody gets hurt in the season.
That's fair.
You better have a backups. You better know who's down in the later rounds.
So that's kind of my shtick on that. Michael Thomas, not a huge fan. Kind of a yellow flag on. Yellow to orange flag, maybe not a red flag, but I'm kind of staying away if I don't have to. I'll let someone else kind of deal with that headache that's going to be for all year. I also don't want to play with, like, is he going to play the whole game? Is he going to take it out at halftime? Is he going to have tightness in his ankle at halftime?
It's stressful enough during the football season. Like, why add more stress?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So kind of orange flag on Michael Thomas. Etienne's green, good to go. Draft him when you want. Whenever you think he's gonna be good to go.
Slick Fargo
he's
thinks,
explosive.
Michael Thomas is washed. I agree.
Yeah, I mean it's not looking good.
Whatever
I have orange flag stuck in the ground on him. And then the other one was the Chris Godwin. Godwin's kind of a yellow flag. Just it's gonna be whenever he returns. Once he returns, he's gonna be maybe not peak, but he's gonna be
So you probably go. Would you just
70,
say
80
let
yards
him go undrafted and then pick him up on waivers later, or you kind of stash him for the whole year? Because he's not going to be on the top of the top yet, and maybe people.
Michael Thomas, if he's my second or third, bench guy, I take a flyer. I take him if he's not my immediate. I like to go. My strategy that I usually go is get my starting lineup filled out for the most part. Maybe I wait on a tight end or a quarterback or something, but usually running back, receiver, I usually fill them up. I usually have one bench guy that I know I'm going to be able to rotate in. Then after that, I'd feel comfortable taking him. So I take him as my second bench guy. I don't want him as my immediate. I want to have to rely on him potentially. But is the risk-reward ratio there? If you take him as your first bench guy, yeah, it's a little risk.
Off the top of your head, do you know what is the most occurring injuries for linemen?
Linemen. I would have to say head
injuries. You always say like
injuries.
all the speed cutter dudes, ACL, like what I'm saying. Like
yeah, if they bend, ACL. I would say.
Do they always say like
concussions?
They get the most concussions.
Yeah, definitely. Or just like undiagnosed concussions that they're out for a couple weeks, but they don't say it's a concussion, so they don't have to sit out. They'll have the weird sorenesses that pop up, but people I've talked to are like, yeah, they have so many. They tape those things up. Their wrists and hands are taped up like a mofo.
Okay, so they're okay there. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I always think about it's like I don't really see too many like injuries, but I guess the concussion stuff that makes more sense.
They're banging heads in there. They got a lot of CTE going on in there, unfortunately. But those are the main things. Thanks for the question. C. Dimich coming in hot. We got anything else in there?
Got something.
What's
the injury that you see, like if you're drafting fantasy football, what's the injury you see that they're recovering from that you stay away from?
I'm trying to think in football. Achilles is always tough in football. Not fun. Cam Akers is the one anomaly, and kudos to him, but I will stay away from Achilles for the most part. Hamstring tears. Hamstrings, they're just so tough. You get so much hamstring soreness, quote unquote. I stay away from hamstring soreness, stay away from hamstring tears, stay away from any hamstring related injury. I try to fade as fast as possible. One of my guys have it. I try to stash him and trade him because I just don't like dealing with those. I don't like the unknowingness of it. Of is he going to play the quarter the game started and then get tightness and not play the last 3 quarters? Basically, that's tough for me to deal with. I just kind of try to fade that entirely. Hamstrings for sure.
Oh,
same
yeah,
thing with basketball.
Because I know that personally. I know hamstring. I was like, nah, it's gonna be annoying.
Takes forever.
Yeah, it took me a couple years just to be like, yo, I could do whatever I feel like again. Like, yeah, nah, that shit sucks.
Yeah.
Don't ever do anything to
for basketball. I usually stay away from foot sprains, even though I was just talking about Liz Franck surgery not being a big deal. Surgeries, I'm kind of okay with if they have any if they have a foot surgery and they start having any hiccups in it. Mm-hmm. Stay away. The Travis Etienne, no hiccups, surgery's clean, he's returning on time. Those are kind of things I try to that might be a better one. Hamstrings and any surgeries that are having delayed times and recovering. That could be another big one of, stay away from.
Yeah, injuries suck, especially in football. I feel like in football too, there's always like nagging ones that they have to play through too.
Yeah,
it's like,
and you just never. No one's really healthy by the end of the year.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what it is.
Everyone's
you
injured.
gotta, just have a strong bench.
Okay, and then we got Michael Thomas is washed. Sick Fargo. Hey man, you said it, not me.
He asked if you will eventually open up your own private practice.
It's something I've thought about. I don't like dealing with people very much. I don't want to deal with hiring people. I've had an issue at work now where I've had to sit down a coworker and tell him I'm tired of babysitting him. And it just took so much energy out of me to gather reasonings to why this guy sucks at work. And I'm like, dude, just stop being shitty, basically. Excuse my language. But stop being crappy at your job and just be better at your job. And I don't like, having to sit someone down and tell them that.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I own my own private practice, I'm going to have to do that consistently. And I'm just like, why can't you just be good at your job? Don't be lazy. Work hard, especially if I own something. This is my company. I would be even more ready to just pop off on someone for being, a crappy worker. Mm-hmm. That I would not. I would have way too much stress. So I don't really want to own my own private practice. I've thought about being a director of a clinic where I just take care of all things therapy and let everyone else deal with it.
Nice.
And that would be cool. I'd be okay with that, but not I don't want to I don't want to deal with that. I don't like dealing with people and emotions and things like that. But
yeah, because then you have to definitely have to.
Yeah, and there's so Slick Fargo saying you can have someone do that for me, and I don't know. I would feel. I don't know. I don't know, entitled, but I would feel responsible for it. And I don't know. I just don't want to have to. I feel like I'd be an awful micromanager, and no one would want that. I would be terrible. You would not want to work for me. It would be bad. I just know how I'd react and how I'd react with it, and no one would want to be micromanaged by me. It's not good. Sorry, I asked, what do you mean by babysitting? But so we have a tech, and he walks around. And he'll check the schedule on the computer and then walk around. There'll be hot packs sitting out, or there'd be ice packs sitting out. And he'll walk by him to go act like he's doing something else, or look at his phone for a little bit, and then walk by and miss a bunch of exercise bands that are out that he could be putting away, or walk by and not do laundry and stuff. And I'm sitting there dude, be better at your job. Just do your stuff. I don't want to sit here and tell you, hey, can you pick that up? Can you pick that up? Can you do that? Can you put this away for me? Can you put that ice pack back? Can you do this? And I just can't. I lose so many years of my life.
Just because you.
And I don't, and I already do, and I'm not that big of a thing, and I just don't want to deal with crappy workers. Like I just don't.
Yeah.
I've kind of been my.
Especially too, because you can't really know in like an interview too. You can't really know if somebody's a shitty worker.
Yeah,
They could
like
really
you can
be
act
good,
all good.
yeah.
So we have had conversations with this guy, and he's the type of guy who sits in his car at lunch for 30 minutes and sits in his car idling so that he can have the air condition on because mommy and daddy pay for everything. So it's like that kind of guy I don't want anywhere near me. I guess if I own my own company, I could just fire him, but like that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But like
Do you think it would be hard for you to fire people too?
No, absolutely not.
No, you
I
should
don't
be like,
care if you like me
you
at
don't
all.
make it-
I don't have to be
you
your
didn't
friend
make
at
it.
all.
You're
You
cut.
got to work with me though.
You're cut.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I don't care. I thought I would have an issue, but I'm like, nah, I'm good. If I have reason enough to why I want to fire you, I'm chilling. Like, peace. See you later.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot that has to go on when you run a business. Like if from
It's just
top
something
to
behind the
bottom.
doors.
If you wanted to have your own good business, you literally have to go. You have to go down the line.
Yeah, you got to have trust in everyone, and I'm just like, I don't know people in like, because it's my license on the line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, if I tell you to put a hot pack on a patient and you forget to set a timer, like if they get burned, that's my license on the line.
Yeah.
And so that's what like
different.
bothers me too, is it's patient care and it's being lazy, and in the healthcare field, like being lazy in the healthcare field is the most frustrating thing. And I know everyone, maybe not everyone, but most people can attest to this, like being at a doctor's office, waiting for like 2 hours, and then you go up to talk to the person at the front desk and they're like, well, sorry, we've been here, but I don't know, like when I told him, but I guess he forgot about you. Like that's just that's the worst feeling in the world. So anyways, just responsibility of that. Sick Fargo also hit the how many years of experience to become a doctor. So mine was high school degree and then 4 years bachelor in some kind of exercise science. So I did kinesiology, any kind of science, biology, whatever. And then you have to have prerequisites to get into grad school, in which you have to take what's called the GRE. It's basically like the SAT for like grad school, graduate records exam. You have to get a score on that, and then you basically apply to these schools with that score and your basically undergrad, so your bachelor's type of stuff, to all these other things. And it's basically like a college application process all over again, but a little bit more like difficult, I guess. It is a little bit harder to get in there than regular college, let's be real.
I think he's a director.
Director. To be a director of a clinic.
Like, what? Yeah.
Technically, none.
You could just
if someone
right?
trusts you to hire and they're like, no, this guy's the real deal. You can kind of
you could go right off the bat.
Yeah, like technically I could be a director because do I know how everything's run? Yeah. But do I have the experience to work with like certain patients and doing things like that? Like I can't like I don't know.
Yeah.
Would people respect me as a director if I was like a 20-whatever-year-old director or like a 30-year-old director?
Yeah.
Would people respect me enough? I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. Because I don't know if I want to have to sit there and try to prove myself to everyone, even though I'm your boss. Like,
yeah, that's true.
We all know in the real world that's not always how it works. Like, just because you're the boss doesn't mean people respect the hell out of you at all.
Fuck no.
So, would I want to be a director? Yeah, in the future. But, like, if I was a director now, I think I'd be too young for anybody to kind of take seriously. That I think I would have a lot more issues for what it's worth.
Yeah, even that in that circle, they'd be like, oh, how did he become director?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and that's exactly what would happen. It's
too much.
Technically, you probably should have at least 5 years of experience under your belt before you are a director, so people understand you know what you're doing. I have a friend who's a new grad who's director, and I've talked to him and asked him. He was like, "Well, I think everyone's like kind of nice, but he just kind of lets everyone do what they want, which is like fine. That's fine."
But not Mr.
Yeah, if I like
boy that can't.
If I'm gonna be usually if they're looking for a new director of a clinic, it's usually to change. Change the culture. If they're bringing someone new like me and who's young like that, they're gonna want you to change the culture, and they're gonna want you to be able to like do things. If they wanted to stay the same, they usually would have just hired from within and put someone who's been there for a while to go up to that level. So that's my thing with it is usually it's not gonna be as smooth as you think. But could you do it? Yeah. Like could you drop the hammer down if you had a bunch of people that trusted you? Like yeah. Or could I just drop the hammer down and say, F it, I'm just going to fire you or, like, make you do it my way because I can, and I'm, like, given all this power? Cool, yeah, you could. So that's kind of that little line you walk across. Doogie Howser it, yeah? Go nuts. Just start laying down the law.
To Slick Fargo, no, I have not called out any of my other coworkers on anything. You know, like
That is, I do think
see
about
things?
that.
Do I see things? For sure. But is it my place? Nope. So I just
Yeah.
kind of stay out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's things that it's just kind of more of like simple like gym etiquette. And I would think that the trainers would have more gym etiquette in a sense, because we're trainers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
And this is our place of work, but just kind of like you're saying, you know, things could be laying out, things could be here, there, because we have our own like personal training section, and it's already tight as it is. I mean, every time when we're training, it's like 4 to 5 trainers, and people are in there, and then some people who have the personal training, what do you call it? Access, they could work in there at the same time too. It doesn't matter, even if they have a trainer with them or not. So basically, yeah, that thing could be messed up all around. It's crazy. It's like, damn, where can I find the other 5? There's no other 5. All right, cool. So, you know,
Yeah.
a little annoying, but you know, it is what it is.
It's gonna cause a lot more trouble than good if you call someone out, especially open on the floor. I would imagine it's similar for you, but if I called another therapist out on like doing an exercise or something like not appropriately for their patient, I'd be like, why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense, especially in front of the patients and just completely disrespecting them. It would just cause so much turmoil that I couldn't imagine. Yeah, maybe pulling them aside, but even then it's still like,
well,
what do you
fuck
care
bro.
about me for?
Yeah, like, what does it matter?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, when I saw most of the trainers,
They're not your they're not your client.
Exactly.
Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah. Because again, it's kind of also like, well, I'm actually just a subcontractor here.
Exactly.
I just use the facility.
That's the one difference I
You know
think
what I'm
with
saying?
like the tech I was talking about was like he's dealing with my patients. Sometimes I have to give him my patients, and
Nah,
it's
see,
now
fuck that.
his. Yeah, so that's a little bit
Now
different.
it's
But
on
like
my- yeah,
calling
it's on
people
my-
out, yeah.
yeah,
So I can call him out, no problem, and I'll be like, no, suck it. Like you
Bro,
suck.
bro,
Stop
do
being
better.
lazy, and you're like. Otherwise, I'm not gonna have you. I'm not gonna trust you, and then we're not gonna give you hours because I can't use you. So see you later.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But yeah, calling out like trainers or anyone really.
no,
Could you imagine
exactly
that?
because that's the thing.
While they're
too.
doing their
I
job?
can't, and that's the thing about because I can't. That's the thing about the personal training world is like technically they've gone to school just as much as I did. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing else that will show that even if he's scrawnier, fatter than me or anything, doesn't mean I know more than he does necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He could have seen something on YouTube, and that YouTube clip is what he's trying. And then, so I can't say nothing because the guy who he got it from,